Hi everyone and welcome along. At the time of filming we're in the height of summer, so I thought it would be a perfect time to paint some of my favourite summer illustrations. So grab your paints and let's get started. Right then, so let's get drawing. I'm going to first draw in an ice cream cone. We did some really fun ice lollies the other day, so I thought it would be a fun excuse to do a little ice cream. So we've got the cone and then however many scoops you want, and that's all we need really for our ice cream cone. Whilst we're on the subject of round things, it's a kind of beach ball. So you could always draw around something if you wanted, but then it really comes from finding a sort of oval for the top, and then from that you can just do little curves out to the side and that will help you with the roundness. Then another round shape, we've got a watermelon slice, so a semicircle. Palm tree, just need a curve really, and it's all about curves in summer, isn't it? I think with a palm tree it's just important to try not to be too sort of symmetrical with your palms. And then a sun hat, do the brim of the hat, nice big floppy one. And then some sunglasses. I've always found sunglasses quite hard to draw actually. Anyway, so that's all we need for our drawing. If you're at home, I highly recommend you lightly rub out all of your pencil just so it's really faint, because when I paint in watercolour, a lot of people ask me about how I get rid of my pencil lines and things, and the first thing is drawing lightly in the first place and not getting too heavy with your pencil. And then once you've actually painted in your paint, having done that fairly translucently, if you can see any pencil underneath it, it should be fairly easy to rub it out. And if you've painted heavy, then you probably can't see the pencil, so no problem. Okay, so let's begin with our ice cream cone. I've just mixed up sort of yellow ochre-y, nice little wash, and I'm going to begin by just using, I've got a 2/10 brush, which feels like a very small brush to use, but I must say when I'm painting little illustrations, I do love to use little brushes for all kinds of detail. And all I'm going to do is paint in like a crisscross section, and the areas where the paint where the page is unpainted space will get a nice little crisscross, and other areas it'll sort of blend in, bleed in, and I'll get a little bit of shadow in there. And a little bit of sort of warm orangey brown, and that's looking really nice. Basically my aim today is to try and paint things nice and sort of simply and fairly loosely. I'm going to take some Cobalt Turquoise, size 2 brush, and just sort of do a slight melt. But notice how I'm not sort of colouring in absolutely everything. I'm leaving it just a little bit unpainted, and then I'm going to get a little bit of stronger colour just to really get that there. And then I can use some permanent rose. Oh no, they've got some opera rose here, even brighter. Just to get that ice cream looking nice. And then I like to just sort of dabble about a bit, just sort of blend it in a fraction. Just makes it look just a tiny bit more realistic, if realistic is the right word. And then whether you like to have a flake on the top of your ice cream, or you know what, a cherry is just a little bit more picturesque. So a bit of cadmium red, making sure to leave a little bit of unpainted space. That's looking pretty fun for the time being. Next one, I'm going to go for the beach ball. And the beach ball's got a lovely shine on it, with it being like a shiny plastic. So starting with cadmium red, my size 2 brush. After doing an outline, just clean my brush off a little bit. And actually I think I'll go down to my 2/10 for a bit more control. And then I just like to kind of scribble the brush in a little bit, fill in the wetness. Now if you're painting in all the different sections in colour, then you want to make sure that you just allow the one you've just painted to dry before you place in another one. So you could just paint in one that's just one over from there, and again a little bit of shine. Let's get that turquoise back. When I paint little sort of pages of illustrations, I like to have a very like rough colour palette that's cohesive throughout the piece. Obviously there are certain items that you can't really change the colour of unless you're going down a sort of really fantastical fun route like the watermelon. So I'll leave that to dry as well for the minute. And now I'm going to paint in the watermelon, which I'm really looking forward to. My permanent rose is looking a bit purple from my previous painting project, so I'll just wake these colours up a little bit. Okay, so I've got some opera rose and some Alizarin Crimson here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint in across the top there, and then use water to just paint roughly out towards the edge. And then I'm actually going to get a bit of red because watermelon's definitely got quite a lot of red in it. In fact, we had some for breakfast this morning. It's kind of why I thought of painting this all. Really pleased with that colour actually. I know they have pink seeds, but I also think it's quite fun to just drop in some of that for the minute. I mean, I know they have black seeds, not pink seeds. And now some Sap Green around the edge. Just control that on the way back. And then if you're feeling a little bit brave, I like to just take a clean wet brush and just slightly soften the edge of that. Not too much water, but just a little bit. You can leave that little bit of white in between the two, no problem. Okay, so on to the next one. Onto our palm trees. So what I'm doing here for the Sap Green, it's 2/10 brush. Begin with the curve that I drew for the palm. Then I've got a bit of Sap Green mixed with yellow up here. Going to do a different colour for this one, and I'm not too worried about them bleeding in or touching each other. And I'm just painting little curved lines off the central palm, and then I might just add a little extra low light there. And then one off the back just behind. So I'm just going to build those up with sort of these alternating greens. And you can see that they sort of bleed a little bit into each other, but not too much, because we're not using really wet colour. So you can just sort of paint these quite nice and quickly. Then at the bottom, I've got some yellow ochre and some burnt sienna. Just going to use the sort of side of the 2/10 brush to paint little sweeps of colour. They're almost little sort of teardrop shapes that are just getting slightly smaller, to the point where it's going to be a bit difficult to sort of do single brush strokes. So now I'm just doing little dabs here and there, but I'm using the unpainted space to create a wonderful gnarly knotty palm tree. And if you wanted a little bit of sand, there you go. For the final little one, I'm going to just take a little bit of Payne's Grey, nice and dilute, and the first thing I'm going to do is just a few rather diluted marks in the sort of lens of the sunglasses, and then for the sun hat, probably a similar kind of technique for the ice cream cone. I'm going to just do a sweep of colour. And then I'm going to use my smaller brush to paint in some texture on it. So a bit of a weave. It's a clever little technique, this, because it allows you to paint quite fast and quite simply, but also shows off just a little bit of sort of artistic thoughtfulness, that you are like looking for the textures, and then a little bit of brown. Just keep on using those brush strokes to reflect the shape that you're painting. Whilst that's drying, we can paint in the rest of the sunglasses here. I'm actually I like the idea of doing like a tortoise shell sunglasses, which I think is probably the more challenging style to paint, but let's have a look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin by painting in quite a dilute sort of brown colour. Right, if I just paint that in first, and what if I do this? Whilst it's still wet, and then I think that's quite cool, isn't it? So I think you need to do it like section by section. A bit of orange in as well, might be fun. And then for the hat, for the band of the hat, just using a bit of pink to sweep across, using the unpainted space to show a bit of a sort of crumple or a crease on the ribbon. And then always a bit of a low light will always help just convey a bit more depth and texture to it. Okay, so this is all looking really nice. I'm just going to go back round again and add a little bit more detail to each one. So up the top we're all nicely dried up here, so I just want to add a little bit more, maybe a few little low lights to the, it must be like a raspberry ripple ice cream or something. Then for our beach ball, so if you wanted to just have like a few colours like that and then the rest as white, what I'd recommend is getting a nice shadowy colour like this Payne's Grey here and just completing the shape like that, and then when you rub your pencil out it'll just look really cool. Some watermelon seeds I think look good just sort of on top of those pink marks. The palm tree looks great. Sometimes it's fun to just add in just a few little extra details, especially near the top where it gets a bit full. And down here, well, I think the hat looks pretty good. We can maybe just pop in a few bits there. And I also think the sunglasses look pretty nice already, but I'll just do a tiny sweep of colour there. And then all we need to do is rub out the pencil and we'll have some gorgeous summer watercolour icons. And there you have my summer icons after the pencil's been rubbed out, and you can just see there's a lovely lightness to them now with a little less pencil. There you go, enjoy and have a wonderful rest of your summer. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed that one. I want to say a massive thank you to our patrons for their support, because that support enables us to keep creating videos like these that everyone can enjoy. And if you enjoyed it, then hit the like button and comment below to let me know how you got on with that one. And if you never want to miss another video, just hit the subscribe button and the little notification bell, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!